Just when I thought, just when I thought things could not get any worse. We just talked about that crazy case where the man threw the woman that he was having an affair allegedly with out the window. Well, I don't know, guys, but I think this next story might be worse than that. I don't know. You guys let me know. But this story comes out of Michigan. This man is a loose cannon. His name is Jonathan Welch. And Jonathan Welch, before this tragedy happened that we're going to talk about today, he was actually in custody and he was released on bond. A $100,000 bond was set. His mother was graciously kind enough, his own mother was graciously kind enough to pay 10% of the bond, and Jonathan Welch was released. You probably want to know, well, why was he initially in custody? Well, initially, Jonathan Welch was in custody because he had brutally tortured. I mean, we're going to get into the details, but he brutally tortured his girlfriend. He violated her body physically with a pole, if you know what I mean, sexually, assaulted her, essayed her with a pole, you guys. He did all kinds of stuff. He tortured her and everything. And so he was arrested for that. And the judge gave him a very low bond. I mean, of $100,000, you'd think for all the torture she went through, her life would matter more. But they released him out on bond and he was placed on house arrest. And he was required to live at his mother's house. And in this residence, his mother and his stepfather reside there. It's unclear whether the girlfriend lived there, but during this tragedy, she was at this residence. She also is the mother of Jonathan Welch's child. So she has his child. So let's get into this crazy story, you guys. It is insane. So Harper Woods man stabbed mom with butcher knife, beat girlfriend, stepdad to death. That is a really horrific way to die. It truly is. To be repeatedly beat with, blunt force trauma to the head and all other areas to death. That's torture. That is beyond comprehension of just the pain that oh my goodness, this man must have had a deep hatred for the girlfriend and the stepdad, because it's interesting how he beat the girlfriend and the stepdad to death. Stepdads can kind of have rivals with the stepchildren, so there may have been some underlying beef that he had with the stepdad. Interesting enough, he also stabbed his mom. Luckily, though, his mom was able to get away. So let's get into the story. Jonathan Welch is facing several charges. That is the gentleman there. You can see him right here. And here you can actually see an actual scene of the crime scene here. If you see the guy laying on the ground handcuffed, that is him. And there's fire truck and everything there. But this man is a menace to society. We're seeing a lot of these menaces to society, angry men, angry Black men going out and committing a lot of violence going on. It just seems to be happening, a lot of a trend going on that's really horrific than we've seen in many years prior. So he is accused of killing his girlfriend days after he was released on bond after being charged for attacking her. This is in Harper Woods, Michigan. Officials said a Harper Woods man whose days earlier had been released on bail in order to live at his mother's house stabbed his mom several times, you guys, with a butcher knife, and murdered his girlfriend and stepfather with blunt force. He beat them to death. That is just beyond imagination of the horror that these two went through. Just imagine. And the thing is, what makes this whole thing ironic is the fact that the mother was kind enough, because she didn't have to do that. She was kind enough to pay for this man's bond. And he was ordered to live at his mom's house. She was kind enough to agree to that because she had to have agreed to that condition before they were going to release him. And so she opened her home to her son. And he does this. He pays her in return to stab her several times, beat her husband to death, you guys, and his girlfriend. And I didn't mention that he threw his little child out the window. Isn't that crazy? Oh my gosh. I thought the last story was crazy, but this one, guys, I don't know. Jonathan Lamont John Welch, he's 23 years old. That's young to be that violent. Wow. Of Harper Woods, was at the center of a violent 7-hour barricaded situation that began at 8:14 p.m. Sunday, July 10th. And it stretched into early hours of the morning, according to authorities. So this was a standoff. After he committed these heinous murders, his child's left outside, you guys, him naked. I heard the child wasn't even dressed. It was a baby too. Thrown out the window, left outside for hours. 7 hours. Barricaded. Luckily, the baby's still alive, guys. That's good news. But the baby was just left out there for 7 hours, naked. While this man is barricaded in the house, and apparently there was alleged allegations that he was shooting at the cops. It's lucky that he's even still alive, being a black man shooting at officers. That's, the officers obviously, for the first time, I was saying a lot of stories we hear, handled this right and didn't actually kill Mr. Welch. I mean, even though this guy is pretty horrific in what he did. So 2 dead, mom stabbed, child found in driveway, shots fired at police. So that's a summary of all that happened. During that time, his 42-year-old mother ran into a neighbor's home with stab wounds after escaping from her son. That is so sad. Police said authorities accused Welch of stabbing her multiple times in the back as she's trying to get away with a butcher's knife. There's more to this story. We're going to have to really delve into why he turned on and began to attack his own parents as well. Officers later found Welch's 1-year-old son, so he's 1 year old, but he's still a baby in my opinion to be 1 year old. 1-year-old son in the backyard of the home during the standoff. Medical officers transported the child to a nearby hospital for treatment, they said. Welch fired multiple gunshots. This man was a loose cannon. He just lost his natural mind. He just lost his mind. This man seems like he's just enraged at officers throughout the course of the standoff, and also started a fire inside the home. Man. Just when you don't think it can get any worse, before appearing in the front doorway, according to authorities. So this was after he had already brutally beaten to death his girlfriend and his stepdad. They're in the house, their bodies are there, and he's trying to burn the evidence in front of the officers, because basically those officers are all standing outside trying to get the guy to come out and surrender, basically. And while the officers are all there, he's trying to destroy evidence, destroy the bodies. That's what he was trying. That's why he tried to set the fire in the first place. Police took him into custody and brought him to a nearby hospital for treatment. Oh my gosh, guys. Just imagine how these officers feel when they see suspects like this who do heinous crimes, and then they have to take these people to the hospital to get them get them treated for their injuries. I know they're probably like, I want to take this guy outside in the back and do something. You know what I mean? Like, so that the officers have to be kind to everyone. Firefighters from Grosse Pointe Woods extinguished the flames, and police found the bodies of Zalea Frazier. She's only 22 years old. That's sad. She barely started living life. Of Roseville, and Robert Bray Jr., 70 years old. That's the stepfather of Harper Woods inside the home. That's sad. So as I mentioned, he was trying to set the fire basically to destroy their bodies, to destroy the evidence of what he had done. That's what he was trying to do. But it's interesting he's doing it right in front of the officers. I mean, I don't know how far he thought he was going to get. Frazier was Welch's girlfriend and the mother of his son. That's sad. She was the baby mother, authorities said. Bray was Welch's stepfather, according to the officials. Frazier and Bray had both been killed by blunt force trauma. Like I said, that's just a horrific way. It's a way to torture someone as they're losing their life. It's horrific. It really is. It's so sad. Welch had been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of assault with intent to murder, 1 count of second-degree arson. Wow. 7 counts of felonious assault and 6 felony firearm violations. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a long list of charges, right? Bond issued after alleged attack. At the time of the standoff, Welch was out on bond after being charged for attacking his baby mama on June 2nd, court records show. So he had already attacked her. And I don't know, given how horrible, let's talk about how horrible that he did the first incident. Prosecutors said Welch strangled Frazier, that's the girlfriend, with an extension cord. This was the incident before he was released. He poured gasoline on her, tortured her with a red-hot spatula, then he SA'd her with a pole. Dang, that is brutal. This was the first charges. So my question is, why did they give him such a low bond? That is horrific. It's inhumane what he did to her. And he assaulted her with a pole. That must have been so horrific and painful for this woman. Which makes me wonder, I know that she is the mother of his child. I wonder why she went to his parents' home, knowing that he was going to be released. And normally, the conditions are in these type of domestic violence incidents is no contact with the victim. So my question is, why was she at his parents' house? Why did she put herself in a dangerous situation, knowing how just demonic and evil this man is? I mean, he strangled her, guys, with an extension cord, poured gasoline on her. He was trying to light this woman up. She was very lucky he did not light a match. I'm just saying. That was probably his next goal, because he tried to do that in the very final incident when he burned down the house. So the first incident, I think he just didn't get to finish whatever he did, because hopefully she got away. He tortured her with a red-hot spatula, then SA'd her with a pole. And they're going to only set his bond. They only set his bond for $100,000. Isn't that crazy? So in that first incident, he was charged with 7 crimes, including torture, assault, and criminal SA. You guys can see that word. I'm not going to say it because we can't say it on YouTube. But that's crazy. That was the first charge before he was let go, before he was released. That's what makes this case so horrific, because this happens every day. Our judicial system is so laxed, and it's set up to favor and protect the defendant and not so much protect the victim. And I've seen this happen, play out so many times in the court system. And it's very sad, because even the law enforcement, when they come out to these cases, if there's no actual violence that has happened where the victim is beat or something like this happens where she's murdered, basically, they don't do anything. They'll just tell you, oh, sir, sorry, ma'am, I can't do anything unless you have a mark or some violence has happened. So it's like, really, what is the point of having law enforcement there? You know, they don't protect you. So that's why I always emphasize the importance of women getting training on how to utilize, firearms, also have tasers, also have other forms of protection, because honestly, the cops are not going to protect you. They're just not. And you have to take proactive approaches in who you're dating and look at their criminal record and their background. All of this information, you guys, is public record. There's so many websites online that provide you with all the information you need. All the information you need. So this is just crazy, guys. Let's just continue to go. Sorry, I just keep babbling on, but this is just insane. So instead of being locked up without bond, he was issued $100,000 bond, or 10%, by the magistrate, Dawn White. And we want to say her name because, I don't know if this is a woman or man, Dawn White, because he should be held accountable. He's the one that, because he has discretion. The judge has discretion. When the judge is setting bond, they look at the criminal history. They hear from the prosecutor what are the facts regarding the case, the extent of the facts, what's the criminal record, what is this person's potential of being a danger to the public and to the victim, and is there a stable place for this person to stay? There's a bunch of factors that they assess. And for this judge to set such a low bond, I feel $100,000 to me is low given the facts that we just looked at regarding the initial crime. I feel like Mr. Magistrate Dawn White should be held accountable. He should be questioned about his low bond and his my opinion, is poor discretion. So Welch was just able to pay, his mother paid $10,000 to get him out of jail, basically. On Friday, Welch's mother got a bail bond to get her son out of jail, authorities said, and he was released on GPS tether. Well, unfortunately, it was foreseeable that if he did this heinous crime, he was going to go out and finish the job because he didn't want his girlfriend to testify against him, basically. This is the court's worst nightmare, the worst possible scenario that could happen. Judge Kenneth King of the 36th District Court mentioned. The witness has killed after the defendant was placed on bond, given the benefit of being placed on bond with house arrest. But yeah, of course, Judge, because it feels like a lot of times these judges, they're so laxed in giving these bonds. I mean, those facts were heinous. That bond should have been higher than that. If anything, he should have got a no bond, in my opinion, given those facts. But the issue in our society is the judicial system is so lenient on criminals or violent criminals that engage in these heinous crimes. And so they set these low bonds. There's not much accountability. They're constantly released early for alleged good behavior. They always say it's good behavior, but I don't believe that to be true. But they're always released, all right? And then after they're released, then they go out and commit these more heinous crimes, and then these are foreseeable too. It's foreseeable that he was going to do this given the first initial attack on this woman. And now he took out his parents. Oh, thank God his mother's still alive for now. Hopefully she manages to survive. But on Wednesday, the prosecutors called for an emergency bond hearing for Welch on the original charges. He was remanded to custody. And basically, as the judge says, it's far too little, far too late. Yeah, it is. And we're going to just look at this bond hearing just a little bit. But before I go into the bond hearing, my question is, and there this little menace to society is right there in his bond hearing. But one of the things you have to ask yourself, in these domestic violence incidents, I think the key lesson that we do need to learn from this particular story is that these incidents can endanger not only the victim or the targeted victim, but it endangers third parties and those other people around who, for example, are just in the vicinity or who are trying to defend or protect the target, the victim. So it's a good lesson for us to learn when we have siblings and family members that are in domestic violence. Yes, we should speak to them and give them advice to get out of those dangerous situations. But you also should not physically try to intervene. You have to get law enforcement involved, step back, because those individuals, even law enforcement will tell you that those are the most dangerous calls that they come out to and respond to. Because these people, they will harm not only their target, but they will harm anyone who tries to interfere or anyone in the vicinity near them, because they literally lose their natural mind. Like this kid, he's 23, I would say he's a kid, he's not that old. But this kid lost all rationality, and you just have to ask yourself, what caused him to have so much rage? What is his background? Because he did some very heinous crimes before he was even initially released, torturing his girlfriend like he did. It's just, you have to ask yourself. So let's take a look and hear the bond. Hopefully it's not that long, we'll see.
These days, you can buy anything online.
Stop! That's not the car I ordered.
Not my problem. With a certified pre-owned vehicle from your Metro Detroit Chevy dealers, the vehicle you select is the vehicle you get.
Egregious allegations that are pending, as well as the possible new charges and the contact violation. I'm asking the court to violate Mr. Welch's bond and remand him to the custody of the Wayne County Jail pending further proceedings.
Mr. Glenn?
No argument, Your Honor.
Yeah, I know it.
And so just to stop, this woman right here is the prosecutor. This gentleman right here with the black on, that is the judge. This is another attorney. I believe he is the defendant here's attorney. And there is an APA, which I'm not sure who that is, and there's a district. Okay, that's the clerk over here. The court clerk right here.
Was far too little, far too late. court is going to remand the defendant to the custody of Wayne County Jail. This is the court's worst nightmare, worst possible scenario that could happen, and that a witness has been killed after the defendant was placed on bond, given the benefit of being placed on bond on house arrest. No.
Can I talk, Your Honor?
You may want to discuss that with your attorney first.
All right.
So he had the nerve to ask, can he talk? There is nothing for you to say, Mr. Welch. Anything more than just to incriminate yourself.
So again, the court will remand the defendant. You have an exam set for August 4th
That's correct.
at 1:30. All right. Just wondering to the extent that the defendant has to be ready for conferences, if he's still there.
Yes, Judge, I will make sure that that arrangement is made should he still be under custody by then.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Judge.
Great, thank you very much, Honor.
All right, so that was the bond hearing. Finally, they did the right thing, but they always wait, you guys, until it's too late. After a victim is murdered, then all of a sudden now they want to set no bond. When it was already predictable, the fact that he committed this heinous crime in the first place of how he tortured this woman, they should have already anticipated that this man was a danger to society and he was not going to follow any laws. Another concern is too, is that the girlfriend went back to the parents' house with their child, knowing how horrific he was initially. So that's also something we have to take accountability to, is take into account as women that when we see the signs, number one, when you do date, you need to do a background check off the bat. It's not cute anymore to date the bad guys. Everybody thinks that's so cute. It's not cute. It's not. Women are losing their life every day. Every day. All you have to do is turn on the news, and there's stories like this that are everywhere, all over the place. So you need to first do background checks, because there are a lot of angry men out there right now, and particularly, I didn't want to get into race, but in the Black community, it just seems to be something going on, guys, with our Black men, that they are just going out on a rampage and brutally. I mean, there's so many stories. You can look on my page, other people's pages. There's tons of stories of just Black men going out and just brutally, I mean, heinously. There was a story that I did back ago where this guy decapitated his girlfriend. He just took the sad, and she was pregnant. She was actually about to deliver in a month or so. I think she was 8 months pregnant. She was almost, due to give birth. And that was just recently. And there's just so many stories, you guys. But you need to be more careful and more watchful of the men that you're dating. Do a background check first. When you see the red flags, get out of the relationship as soon as you can. I understand sometimes your emotions can be strong, but you have to suppress those emotions and utilize your wisdom and intelligence to get out of those situations, because the longer you stay in those situations, it appears to be that these men can become more attached to you. And if they're irrational and they're not capable to handle rejection, then they can take these horrible, drastic, violent measures, as horrible as it was. And then finally, you need to have your own self-defense techniques at your fingertips. Take a self-defense class. Definitely take a shooting class and learn how to operate a firearm safely. Take the training. Learn how to store your firearm safely. You need to take that training. Even if you're not ready to purchase your firearm yet, start with the classes and then go to the shooting range so you can feel comfortable. And also get other mitigating weapons such as taser. You need, you're gonna need, the pepper spray. You need these things to defend yourself, because as women, it's common sense that women do, majority of the time, have less physical strength than men. That's just common sense. So you have to be able to defend yourself. You need to have physical self-defense training and, have certain weapons there at your fingertips. because you need to be able to defend yourself and fight for your life, because it just seems something is going on, you guys, that is just more violent than it's ever been. And this story is just heinous, that he even threw his 1-year-old child, and I believe the child was naked, out the window. He lost his mind. But let's go ahead and watch this news report of it.
Fox 2's Veronica Meadows is live now with the latest. Veronica.
Yeah, good evening. Jonathan Welch now back in jail tonight. He officially first bonded out on Friday, and then just 2 days later, prosecutors say he killed both his ex-girlfriend, his stepdad, and critically stabbed his mom. In a court hearing earlier today, a judge acknowledged action didn't come fast enough.
Yeah, although it's far too little, far too late.
Judge Kenneth King's heartbreaking words show a stark reality as Jonathan Welch appeared in court on video.
This is the court's worst nightmare, worst possible scenario that could happen.
But how many times are we going to hear this? We hear this same response over and over again, time and time and time again, from political figures, our judicial system, from attorneys, all of it. We hear this all the time. Oh, it's such a tragedy, but nothing's ever done. Nothing's ever done. I think we need to completely revise the way that we analyze these cases. I understand under the Constitution that defendants have certain constitutional rights to be protected, but it's become to a point where we have coddled and babied these criminals, these violent criminals in particular. And because we baby them so much and give them chance after chance after chance after chance, even though we can see right in front of us the predictors that these individuals will become murderers eventually, as this guy has become, we keep seeing these stories, and all we hear is these officers, judges, political figures, you name it, saying after the fact, after this brutal tragedy has occurred, oh, it's such a tragedy. It's the court's worst nightmare. Yet these same individuals are very experienced, and they have seen this happen in their court system so many times, and they hear these thousands of cases upon thousands of the same scenarios. So by then they can predict that this person is a violent danger to society and should therefore not be released. And thus they should set higher bonds, but yet they keep doing this. They keep setting these low bonds and just very laxed, allowing these criminals to get out, scot-free. And that's why there's no deterrent. That's why you see a lot of these criminals not feeling deterred to, behave violently, because they already know all I have to do is behave well in jail for a little while, and I'll get a good behavior, and my time will be cut, because they always cut a percentage off. And so I'm going to be released again. So what really is the motivation or deterrent for them to not be violent? And then where is the therapy for those individuals who may be suffering from mental health? I don't know if this is the case for this guy. This guy just looks like he was just psychotic and a psychopath to me, sociopsychopath. He just lost his mind. And my belief too is I think he had an underlying animosity and an anger and a hatred toward his stepdad. I honestly believe that. Maybe his stepdad was trying to, lecture him in the past about changing his life, to behave himself. He was 23. So depending on how long this stepdad was in a relationship with the mother, he probably did have to experience being some child rearing from the stepdad when he was younger, and maybe he didn't like that. So that's why it explains the difference between the gravity of brutal beatings, where he beat the stepdad to death. That is horrific, you guys. You don't understand how horrific that is, to die in that heinous way. It's torture. It's literal torture. Every blow those victims felt to the highest degree, suffering in agony as they were beat repeatedly over and over and over again. And then he also had this deep hatred and animosity towards the girlfriend, because in his mind, she betrayed him by telling authorities of his brutality and torture that he had done to her in the initial crime for why he was initially arrested. So you notice the difference in the gravity of the brutal beatings that he did. Yes, he brutally stabbed his mother, but luckily he allowed her to get away. Notice the key word I said, he allowed. He could have, easily went after her, but he allowed her to get away. So this is just, Let's keep going, guys. Sorry, I had to go on a rant because I was just so irritated with this case.
And that a witness has been killed after the defendant was placed on bond.
In mid-June, Welch was charged with several felonies, including torture. The Wayne County Prosecutor's Office says Welch viciously attacked and sexually assaulted his ex-girlfriend. Prosecutors then say 36th District Court Magistrate Don White set Welch's bond at $100,000, 10% cash surety.
And we wanted to get this woman's picture on there because this is the woman that let him out. Magistrate Dawn M. White. She has served the 36th District since 2015. She is a graduate of Michigan State University and the Detroit College of Law. She has been serving this 36th District Court since 2015. To me, that's enough time for her to have seen hundreds upon hundreds of heinous crimes of the same gravity in her courtroom, time after time and time again. Now, I understand they, you know, as judges, they're not supposed to compare and contrast, you know, other defendants when they're trying to determine bond, meaning they have to look at that particular defendant, look at the particular,
After posting the 10,000
look at the particular facts involved in the case and make their decision. But just looking at this case alone, the horrific facts of what he did when he was initially arrested. Let's go back to the storyline here, because this is horrific. This is horrific.
These days, you can buy anything online.
Stop. That's not the car I ordered.
Sorry, guys, this thing's going on. It has a mind of its own. But here, to think of these facts right here, or these allegations, the initial reason why he was arrested, prosecutors said Welch strangled Frazier. That's attempted murder. Because when you strangle someone, you're cutting off their pathway, their ability to breathe. That was attempted murder, in my opinion. With an extension cord, poured gasoline on her, tortured her with a red spatula, then essayed her with the pole. Those facts alone, we don't have to look at anything else. Those are complete heinous allegations in that initial crime. So why did this judge set this man's bond so low? This is the problem that we're dealing with the judicial system. They're way too laxed, way too lenient. And because of that leniency and the protection, they protect the defendant way too much. They coddle them so much, even given the gravity of their behavior, knowing that just looking at this alone, he merely strangled this woman and poured gasoline on her. To me, just putting those facts together, to me, gives me enough facts to think that this was attempted murder. Okay, and the charges alone are horrible too. He was charged with 7 crimes, torture, assault, and criminal essay, you know, amongst the charges. And yet the judge only gave him a $100,000 bond. Make it make sense. And then I wonder if the judge did her duty of a no protective order. That probably wouldn't even work anyway. It's for some reason when they issue the no protective order, that just gives the defendant more, I don't know, for some reason they don't like the protective order. It seems to aggravate these crimes. So I don't know if she did that either, but either way, it wouldn't have helped this case. But and then the sad part of it, you guys, is the mother. The mother is the one that's paid the 10% part of the bond. And she opened her home to her son. And this is how he repaid her. Brutally, repeatedly stabbing her. Each stab, she has to feel the horrific pain of that blade going into her, of her son, that she had empathy for and love for, to pay for. $10,000 is not cheap, in my opinion, even if that's only 10%. That's a lot of money, okay? She paid that, and then she opened her home up to him to stay there. And he brutally beats to death her husband, or her lover, whatever he was. Well, it was a stepdad, so she's possibly married to him, I don't know. Brutally takes the life of her love, basically the one that she's with. And just, Just this crazy, guys. I thought the last story we did was pretty bad, and it was, but this one, I just feel like it is an elevation to what we already talked about a couple days ago. But let's proceed, guys. Sorry, I had to go on my tangent because I saw her picture and got frustrated.
$1,000 bond. Welch walked out of jail on Friday. By Sunday,
and they let him out of jail, and he killed my sister. He killed my sister.
prosecutors say Welch barricaded himself in his mom's Harper Woods home, shot at police, and set the house on fire. He's also accused of killing his ex-girlfriend, Zalea Frazier, his stepdad, Robert Bray Jr., and critically stabbing his mom.
And I'm so surprised that he's still alive. Because you guys know it seems to be the incidents in the history of that what goes on with police interaction with Black men, the Black community. If an officer even sees something that appears to be a weapon, it could be a cell phone, you guys, it could be a hairbrush. If they even see something in the hand of a Black person, they're ready to shoot. So for these officers to have been that patient with him, even though he's shooting at him and he's still alive, I gotta at least give the officers some type of applause for that, because you would think he would have been, when I heard shooting, I thought he already was dead, but he's still alive. And this young lady here, this is the sister of the girlfriend that was brutally beat to death. And you can see how much
Should never
pain.
let him out of prison. I don't have nothing to say.
Because he wasn't incarcerated, she is now dead. His father's now dead. His mother's in a hospital bed, and he's got a baby out there that will, in most likelihood, never see his father again, and I'll never have a chance to know the baby's mother.
And imagine the child is 1 year old. So, I mean, even though that's a pretty young child, by 1 year old, they're able to at least see some things and you know, try to understand or see what's going on. And for the child to have been in the house to see his mother brutally beaten to death, and then his step-granddad and his grandmother being stabbed, that poor child started his poor little young life so horrifically. And now that 1 year old child is without a mother. Who knows what's the condition of the grandmother, and who knows where he's going to end up. It's sad. And it's just lucky that the 1 year old's even still alive, because based upon the allegations, the Jonathan Welch threw the kid out the window with no clothes on. So this is just, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable.
Attorney James Gallen Jr. says one purpose of bond is to protect the public.
The allegations are one of the things they take into consideration. There's a number of factors that are supposed to be taken into consideration when a judge or magistrate setting a bond.
Regarding the bond initially set by the magistrate,
I do believe it was too low. 23 years old, a time bomb. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is another attorney like myself who agrees with me that exactly what I mentioned earlier, that there are certain factors that the judge looks at. And I kind of listed some of them earlier. But in particular, the facts in this case would not warrant a $100,000 bond. This was a miscarriage of justice, and the judge should be held accountable for what that's what I feel like they should revise in the law. I understand that they want to protect judges' ability to use their discretion, but this is a complete negligence. And I feel like judges should have a duty to somewhat, although tenuous, should have a duty to care for, meaning to care in that they make set reasonable bonds, because the issue with the factor analysis is that it gives the judge too much of a wide range of discretion. That's the problem. The factor analysis is it's like you put all these things in a kitchen sink and hope something will stick, basically. It's everything in a kitchen sink that the judge can basically look at. I'm just giving you guys an analogy. And then the judge can just, you know, pull something out of a hat of what they think the number should be for the bond. And I just think because of this broad discretion, it's creating this danger to society, because this judge had a duty, in my opinion. She had a duty to assess and determine safety, public safety. This kid, I won't say kid, okay, he's a 23-year-old man, posed a public safety risk, not only to the victim, but as you can even see the allegations played out in this case, he endangered the community. He brutally beat to death his stepdad, almost killed his mother by stabbing her repeatedly, threw out the child, you know, with no clothes on, and then shot out officers. And who knows, anyone who would have intervened, they would have been shot at. So this 23-year-old kid, given the facts, and I keep saying kid, but I would say just a man, but 23-year-old man, given the underlying reasons for why he was initially in custody, should have been enough for her to set this at a higher bond than just $100,000. I don't understand. I really don't understand how she analyzes it. Also, you have to ask yourself too, what is the particular culture in that particular area? Because in some areas, locations, the judges are prone to favor defendants. And then in other locations, the judge is more prosecutorial favorable. So it depends too on what their perspective is. Are they, you know, more prone to favor defendants or more prone to favor prosecution? That's another issue that I've seen in certain locations too. When I used to be a criminal prosecutor, in certain locations, I would notice no matter how much I'd argue for something, it didn't matter because the judge was more so defense oriented, more prone to favor the defendant over the prosecution, no matter how, you know, many arguments you give. So that's another thing we have to look into. What is the culture in particular of that particular judicial system in that area? What is Dawn White's background? Is she more prone to favor defendants? Because that's an issue. It's like as if she was so clouded by her judgment that she didn't even look at the facts and just let this guy walk. And as you can hear here, this attorney also agrees with that.
I'm not saying that the magistrate or judge could have predicted that, but with the charges and the nature of the charges, it should have been apparent that society needed big protection.
We reached out to Magistrate White, and we'll let you know when we hear back. Meanwhile, Brianna says the system failed her sister.
It's broken. It's definitely broken. They should never let him out.
Welch is now charged with 19 counts, including premeditated murder. This time, he's in jail with no bond. Reporting live, Veronica Meadows. We'll send it back to you.
Well, we are hearing about this far too often these days, Veronica, but do we know why didn't the prosecutor's office appeal the bond immediately?
Yeah, Taryn, we texted the prosecutor's office asking them that very question. They did get back to us this evening. They said they specifically wanted to wait until the preliminary exam. That is when the prosecutor's office said that they would have the chance to lay out all of the evidence in front of the district court judge. The prosecutor's office saying by laying out all of the evidence, they were more confident that the judge would grant a higher bond at that time.
Yeah, I still feel the prosecutor too was a little lax on this case too. Because them delaying their argument by saying, oh, I'm going to wait till the preliminary hearing. That's essentially what they're saying. The preliminary hearing is just, it's basically a probable cause hearing where they just lay out pretty much the basic facts. They don't go into detail. It's like a mini trial, but it's not. It's just like the bare bone allegations that can basically be enough to sustain the charges or the elements in the charges. So that's all it is, just like the bare bones. They don't go into detail. They just give like the kind of lay out the, just as enough facts as they can give or allegations that they can give that can meet their burden. And it's basically a probable cause standard, very low standard. So they're saying, oh, at this preliminary hearing, we're going to just ask for the bond. But the prosecutor, in my opinion, was wrong for delaying it that long. They should have aggressively argued against a $100,000 bond. So I feel like the prosecutor dropped the ball. At that hearing, when the bond was set so low, they should have been objecting all over the place, laying out the allegations right then and there. I mean, they have the police report, they have all the information, and when they do submit their filings to the court has that information. So they should have laid out layer upon layer of the details of this heinous crime and why this particular man here should not have been let go. Because we understand a mother's love. Of course, she's going to advocate for her son to be free no matter what he does. But you have to look beyond that, because I'm pretty sure the mother was there. She paid for the bond. But you have to look beyond that and look at the danger to society, because he not only endangered the girlfriend, he endangered other people. So that's my take on this. What do you guys have to say? This case is crazy. I feel like it outdoes the other one, but you guys let me know. He should have been kept in jail. I agree, Dinah. Hi, Dinah. How are you doing? He doesn't seem like Doesn't seem like they assessed anything. Exactly, Dinah. It doesn't seem like they looked at the facts. It's like they completely overlooked that entire sentence that we went over. Hi, NYC Songman. It's so good to see you. It's so good to see you in the chat. See you. It's funny. I can't really physically see you, but see your name. Hello, all. Johnny Boy did some serious house cleaning. Exactly. It looked like he went on a rampage and just lost his mind. Like he was enraged and lost all form of rationality. Yes, exactly. Gone wild. It's crazy. The damage is done. Right, Dinah, it is. Do you guys think judges should have some form of accountability when these type of incidents happen? What do you guys think? Because I know that they don't get any type of accountability because they want to protect their ability to utilize their discretion. But I wonder, should that be revised? Should it be changed? Much more teen than adult. Yeah, exactly. NYC Songman. He doesn't act like an adult. Right, Dinah? Soul ties. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Dinah. I'm so glad you mentioned that. So one thing we already know that's going on. If you just merely reject a man, some of them just act in rage. And you've heard these stories where they just go out and just kill women that they don't even know if the woman just merely rejects them. So that's another thing we see. But what Dinah's talking about is soul ties. And soul ties can be very, very dangerous. If your soul connects, meaning if you physically, soul ties can be established when you are physically involved with someone, you know what I mean? Sexually, basically. That is one way the souls can intermingle and develop a soul tie. And those can be very powerful. And it just, something happens once they cross that line of that physical interaction. It seems as though in the man's mind, a lot of times, they begin to see the woman as like property. And if they're not thinking rationally, thinking like a normal, logical, rational person, and there's someone like this man who's just a psychopath, then they can act irrationally, as this man did, when they don't get what they want. They want to control and completely consume, be all consuming with this other person when they have a soul tie. Soul ties can be very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. You got to be careful who you get involved with, especially in these days and times. Just seems to be a very dark spirit hovering over society. NYC Songman, these super young parents, exactly. Oh, I'm so glad you're talking about this, Songman. These super young parents have to understand that having a baby does not automatically fast forward you into adulthood. Exactly. In the eyes of society, you're still viewed as a kid with a kid. Exactly. Exactly, Songman. I couldn't have said it any better. I totally agree. We've got these kids. I mean, the girl was 22 years old. I still feel she was young, and he was 23. You know, they probably still barely even knew what they wanted to do with their life at that age. And now they have a 1-year-old child. And this kid already seems like he's already lost his mind. I think he also harbored some resentment towards his mother and the stepdad, because I don't think he liked the stepdad in the first place. And so the fact that the mom brought this other man in the house, he didn't want this other man in the house, and probably over years didn't like the man in the first place. And so he also had some type of resentment against his mom for even subjecting him to have to deal with the stepdad. So there was a lot of anger built up in this boy that came out that night. It's so sad what he did to that girlfriend. Man, I still wonder, man, why did she go back to that house? So he savagely beat his girlfriend and was released 2 days later. That's crazy. Exactly, Dinah. Girl. I don't know if it's a girl or guy. Sorry, Dinah, but I'm assuming you're a girl. Let me know if I'm wrong. Or lady. But for real, did you guys hear what I said about the allegations? He literally almost killed her. He choked her. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And they just, $100,000 bond. You're free to go. Make it make sense. Oh, this must be the case that I had seen yesterday. This happened in Compton, LA City, California. No, not in Compton, Songman. This was in Michigan. Oh, you saw another story like this? That's crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another one in LA, but no, this one actually happened in Harper Woods, Michigan. I know, Donna, what was the judge thinking? Sometimes these judges, right, there's not therapy for psychosis. He needed to be committed to a psych ward. Yeah. I agree with you. He did. He doesn't need to be free at all. Bail primarily is only to ensure that the defendant returns on his court date. Unfortunately, his family provided his ties to the community necessary for his release. Yes, that is true, Songman, but there's other factors that the court has to consider, which is safety to the community. And given those facts, that was one of the factors the judge should have looked at. And they should have weighed that factor heavily, given the underlying allegations. They were too severe for them. The judge should just overlook that factor, because that is one of the factors that they look at, is the danger to society. And he was definitely a danger given those first initial charges. You know that there is that sticky constitutional matter of presumption. Yeah, I agree, Songman. Yes, 100%, I agree with the presumption of innocence. I'm not saying that. Yes, he's presumed innocent of the law. I'm just saying in terms of setting the bond in this case, they need to still assess the underlying allegations as they are. They're allegations. And look at the whole situation. And they can't just disregard and ignore. Because I know when I was a prosecutor, we definitely would, when they were setting bond, I would argue all the time the facts, are the allegations involved, the prior criminal record, of course, yeah, their living situation, but the judge always would consider the allegations as well. They would consider the whole and full picture, and then they would make their assessment. They wouldn't just ignore the allegations and then just go with, oh, are you going to return to court? That's not how it works. They have to look at the entire factors involved, because there's multiple factor analysis. So it just feels like as though the judge just overlooked the allegations and was just like, oh yeah, this person is going to come back to the court. They're living with their mom, so that's cool. And they just ignored they ignored the elephant in the room. They ignored the allegations. 100,000 isn't low bond. Judges don't have a tremendous amount of discretion. Bail worthiness is usually based on point system assessed by a local department of probation. Yeah, but I still, in my opinion, I think $100,000, given the allegations in this, I think it was too low. I definitely do, given the allegations. And we haven't even got into the full details of this guy's criminal record. He might have an extensive criminal record also. I didn't even get into that yet. So that's another factor analysis that he would have to look at too. Yes, Dinah, luckily the child is still alive. So thank God the child is still alive. You definitely have to do your due diligence. Arrests and convictions are public record. Exactly, Songman, you do. Women think it's so cute to date the bad guy. They think, oh, it's so cool to date the gangster, the guy that's, the bad guy. That's not cute. This is the bad guys you're running into, these type of individuals. That's what they are. They may be bad in society. You think, oh, that's cute. Well, they're going to turn that onto you. That aggression is going to be turned on you. How they treat other people in society, and if they're not able to even follow basic laws, how do you think they're going to be able to follow your boundaries when you have certain boundaries in place, or if you decide you don't want to be in a relationship anymore? What makes you think they're going to listen to your boundaries? If they can't follow the law, why would they follow what you're saying? If you're saying, hey, I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore, I think this isn't working out, what makes you think they're going to listen to you if they can't even follow a basic law? That's what I'm saying. Like, women think it's so cute to date these type of men. They think it's just like a trend, but it's not. You gotta do your due diligence, like Songman is saying, and you need to do that background check. It's all public record. It's all there. You just gotta type the person's name in, and you can get a wealth of information about a person just by typing their name in. So you need to do that first and foremost, is do that background check on a person. Ask people about this person, how they treat people, observe, watch, listen to how they act. And also you have that intuition to know that something's not right, and not allow your emotions to dictate your decisions, because those emotions can get you in trouble. And it's just sad that this poor girl and then the stepdad lost his life. The baby is still alive, thankfully. He is being treated for any medical injuries, but he's still alive. Yeah, look at his eyes. Exactly, Island Girl. He does look just evil, huh? He looks so evil in the face. It's like a demon took over him or something. I just feel like a lot of these cases, there's just demons that take over these people and become all-consuming. It's just terrible. All right, guys, so that's the end of this story. But before I close out, I was thinking, because we cover a lot of these crazy cases, right? So I'm like, okay, at the end of the stories, I think to try to at least end on a positive note, I'm going to start reading just a little positive quote to end out the video, because it's just too much sad tragedy in these stories to not end on a positive note. So this book I think is cool to read from. It's just a small quote. It's called The Happiness Code, 10 Keys to Being the Best You Can Be. And I think it's pretty cool. It has these short quotes. So I think, oh, before we end each of these crazy stories, let's try to find something positive to think about when we leave, because it's pretty sad and I don't want you guys to go to sleep or whatever you're doing and have to think about this. But the first key to happiness is take charge. The first and most important step in becoming the best you can be is to simply decide to be that person. It's a choice. Of course, that's much easier said than done. Most people find plenty of excuses to avoid being honest with themselves about who they are and what they really want from life. Make the choice to own up to your true potential and step into your brilliance. The principle of choice. So your destiny is in your hands. You have all the keys you need to be successful and to live a happy, fruitful life. You just have to choose. Same thing applies to who you let into your life. You have a right to choose individuals who are going to add to your happiness. If someone is detracting from your life, if someone is sucking the joy from you, you need to let those people go. All right, thanks guys for listening to this crazy, tragic story. Have a wonderful night.